fact, one of the people at Oversight will probably make their way in shortly. I'm going to send it to the group, actually. Copy link. I'm actually coming at this fresh. Um, so I wanted to come at it fresh. I kind of skimmed it a little bit the other day when it came out. This is a huge deal. So what this is about, it's up in the nest, and it's really interesting. Like I said, I kind of skimmed it the other day when it came out, but I figured I know enough about all this that I can just simply go through it in real time, kind of react to it, and kind of break this whole thing down. This is so what this is the transcript from Joe Biden's ghostwriter. If you guys remember, the whole point of the Robert Hur investigation was because of the classified documents and Biden sharing classified information with Mark Zwanitzer, who was the ghostwriter for his book. And upon learning there was an investigation, deleted a bunch of recordings, a bunch of files. And so Hur's team, it wasn't even Hur that really interviewed him, it was Hur's team that went over and interviewed him about all this. And it's pretty crazy. So I'll kind of give you the quick rundown while I'm waiting for people to make their way in. If you guys could repost the space, I'd greatly appreciate it. Um, but essentially, basically, it was 48 hours ago. It came in late. I remember it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock my time when they put this thread out and they sent it to me. They're saying late last night, we forced Garland's DOJ to cough up the transcript of Special Counsel Robert Hur's interview with the Biden ghostwriter, Mark Zwanitzer. We are reviewing now, but want the American people to have it as soon as possible. And so that's all there below. There's a link to it. Ton of it is redacted, like a lot of it is redacted, but you can still see. And I'm assuming it's redacted because they're going to say it's all, national security or classified information or whatever. But whatever. It's probably him making car noises. Biden is. But anyway, so you can actually go through it, and the thread that I attached to the top is what the team did over at Oversight. And you can kind of read through it. It says, this is the FBI or DOJ special counsel and his team interviewing Zwanitzer, and it kind of goes through it. And he said, Zwanitzer testified about how President Biden knew he wasn't supposed to have classified material in such an unsecure setting and needed to be careful in discussing classified material with Zwanitzer, who did not have a security clearance. So Biden knew. Zwanitzer basically testified to this. Said Zwanitzer told investigators that President Biden took him to his garage in his Wilmington home to see the president's Corvette. This is the same garage, if you guys remember, that held uh, classified documents, just in his garage, just hanging out. And what the thing was crazy about this interview is that Robert Hur didn't even bother to show up. So they weren't even treating it seriously at all. And still, they redacted the hell out of it. But Zwanitzer told investigators that Biden read frequently from his personal diary and journals in their interviews for the memoir. President Biden wouldn't let Zwanitzer make copies of the documents. But President Biden mentioned, quote, he needed to be careful because he was reading from documents with classified markings. At one point, President Biden told Zwanitzer that he had just found a classified document downstairs in his home. What's interesting about this, if you guys remember, I believe it was I want to say it was either New Yorker, New York Times, one of them, where they said they tried to make up this thing that Trump held up classified documents in this interview, and that he was telling them stuff they shouldn't have been telling them when it was ended up being all bullshit. Because this is what apparently Biden was doing, right? So it's the accuse your enemy of what you're doing. This is their MO. So as you run through this, you can see it. It's crazy. Zwanitzer added that he didn't know how procedures in a SCIF, a location to review documents and classified material, worked. So right here from it says, I'm assuming the investigator says how it works and how SCIFs work, and have you followed that stuff? Are you familiar in the course of your career about just generally what it means for a document to be classified, with how security clearance works, what a security clearance is? And Zwanitzer says, well, only in the vague. I mean, I know more now. He says, in the last month or so, I see it on, this thing in the Trump world mushrooming, but it's not something I really, again, because anything classified material I've dealt with was history long since been declassified. That's not true. But I don't know, that's what he's assuming. Is that his excuse? I'm not sure. Um, but it's wild to me because, this guy's a ghostwriter. Okay, maybe he doesn't think through things. But I get sent stuff all the time, and the number one thing I immediately look for, say, okay, whose eyes is this for? Because I get sent some stuff leaked to me, and sometimes I can't come out with it because I can't take it down that rabbit hole because it'll end up leading to classified information or stuff like that, and I'd rather not be a target. So I typically scrub and delete that stuff and tell them don't send anymore, or we need to go through an official capacity, or let me get an attorney, or let me get a team that already has an attorneys to handle this kind of stuff. And that's the best way to handle it sometimes. But maybe this author doesn't know, but in my mind, it's just so obvious. So I mean, that's why I never have any of this stuff. I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Just because there's a story there doesn't mean it. So typically, I'll ask him, is it classified? Is it eyes only? Is it internal only? Internal only is not classified. So that's a legitimate leaked document that I can have. I'm not breaking any national security rules there. Um, but it's real tricky. And so it's wild to me that he doesn't really know much about this stuff, right? He says he doesn't know much about this stuff, but then he goes on to say, well, I'm learning the last month, but it's not a big deal. It was old stuff that was declassified anyway. Uh, Joe Biden does not have the executive privilege to declassify anything. So you're telling me what Obama was like, yeah, I'll declass that. If they had classified markings, Joe Biden's not allowed he doesn't have the plenary power to declassify anything. So it's kind of crazy to me. But let's move on. Let me pull up my computer. It's kind of a pain running the space and then reading it off my phone. So give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. And by the way, thanks for showing up. If you guys could retweet the space, I'm going to go through this a little bit, and then I want to talk about some other stories that came out this week. If you guys have been following me, it's been a bad, bad week for the hall monitor class in this country. They're not doing so well. Seems like Mark Elias is having meltdowns. Norm Eisen seems to be having meltdowns. They all seem to be have collective meltdowns, and it's really enjoyable to watch. At the same time, I know what these people do, and so what are they going to do in response to that? That's a good question, and everybody should be asking that question. So let's keep going here. So President Biden mentioned he needed to be careful. This is what they were accusing Trump of. So it's just obvious, right? And again, it's not hierarchy. It's a two-tier justice system. They have power. We don't. That's it. That's all this is. And he added that he didn't know the procedures in the skiff. I went through that. He said Zwanitzer transcribed the audio recordings of his interviews with President Biden he unsuccessfully tried to delete when Hur was appointed and used them to ghostwrite Biden's book. Now, I know Oversight is fighting to get these audio recordings because apparently they still do exist. He did not get to delete all of them. The other thing that Oversight has gone after pretty hard, and they've sued in court to get this transcript. Next to come is the Joe Biden interview recordings, and they're going to get those. And I have a feeling, number one, it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be scary because that dude's, not running the country. He's got a bunch of people out of Obama's sphere running the country and the national security apparatus running the country, not him. But it's also hilarious. Apparently, he made car noises, like vroom vroom, like all kinds of weird shit in his interview. If you guys look at the transcript, and it's now known that that transcript was edited. They said, well, that we just took out like some of the duplicate words or the ands and the does, but it's pretty much all there. Well, now you just admitted that you've edited it, and I don't believe that. I believe you deleted mass chunks of it, and I let those audio recordings have it. And so the other thing about those recordings is that if they are obtained through the court, first thing you do is look at metadata. And if that metadata has been altered, ooh doggy. So they are also fighting to obtain the audio recordings of those interviews between Biden and Wanitzer that were not erased. There's a ton in this thing that has been redacted, but like look at all the people who are in this. So you had 2 FBI special agents, you had 2 assistant special counsels, Mark Zwaniter, Louis Freeman, and Lee Ginsburg. So he had 2 attorneys, Mark Zwaniter, and 2 assistant special counsels and 2 FBI agents in this interview. All of this is redacted. Like if you go through and look at some of the redacted stuff here, like as an example, with the documents in the home. Okay, so when you were visiting him in Wilmington, did you ever go in the garage? He said, I think one time he showed me his Corvette. Okay, then the rest is redacted. He says, all I remember is that the Corvette was inside. My guess is that what's redacted here, and that special agent that's asking these questions said, did you see the documents? And we know this. We know he did because we have the photos. And the photos attached to that one right there. You can see it for yourself. Well, we've seen this a million times. All those boxes are documents. And that garage, if you look at that garage, that is not a secure garage. Like, that's crazy. You have state secrets, you have classified material, just chill. Never mind all the classified documents at the UPenn Biden Center funded by Chinese money in relation to Ukraine, Iran, and the UK. That's crazy. But okay. Especially when you look at what they did in Ukraine and that Burisma story, because it was all around 2014, 2015. And then you look here, it says Wanitzer told investigators that Biden read frequently from his personal diary and journals in their interviews for the memoir. President Biden would let Wanitzer make copies of the documents. So if you look here, it says, Mr. Wanitzer, I could make photocopies, and it would have been a lot faster, he says. But he declined that offer diplomatically, but adamantly. So Biden was like, yo, you want to make some copies of these documents? Okay. Who else did he give copies of documents to? Well, I mean, it was clear, these were personal journals and he didn't want them out of his possession. Okay. It's interesting because we've listened to those recordings. It's clear some of them you guys sit down for an hour and a half. Yeah. And all he's doing is reading. Yeah. And then sometimes in a relatively monotone voice, his journal to you. And you take it down verbatim. Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty painstaking, he says. And he says and then he said the materials are upstairs, goes through, it's redacted, of course. And they said, did Biden talk to you about his efforts to gather these journals and notebooks and other materials? Zwanitzer says, I don't remember him talking about that. I mean, no. And I wasn't really aware where they were, or where he kept them. And when we sit down, it would not be like, okay, let me pull these 8 journals out. It was always like one specific diary for a specific session. Yeah, this is just nuts, man. This guy, Joe Biden, has been in government for 50 years or whatever. The dude, I think Mike Benz, said this the other day too. If you guys remember, if you didn't catch that, I think he was on with Posobiec, I think. Either Posobiec or somebody, I don't know, I caught a clip of it. But that's true. His nickname was Mr. Foreign Policy, right? So, like, it was obvious, Obama giving him the Ukraine post of what he would do with it, right? With Vicki Nuland and all the color revolutionaries out there, and Anthony Blinken, Michael McFaul, all these people. He knew what they were going to do with it. All these documents that had the UPenn Biden Center covered all of that. And if you look at that 22-point plan that Hunter emailed Devin Archer about their plan to get Ukrainian gas into Europe, it's clear. Like, he got all of that, most likely, either from like one of the CIA sites or from the documents at the UPenn Biden Center. I'm going with Anthony Blinken, because Anthony Blinken at the time, keep in mind, Anthony Blinken at the time was the director of the UPenn Biden Center. So he had all these documents under his possession, right? And he made his bones in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. So they put this 22-point plan together and used Hunter to do it with. And if you read it here, real quick, let me go to my profile and I will pull that up for you if you have not seen it. It's in my highlights tab for sure. But I'll just say, I think I can just search it real quick. 20-point plan, and it should pull up. Let's see. Bingo. Okay, cool. I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to grab the tweet. And I'm going to drop it up in the nest. You can take a look at it yourself. I mean, all these documents. when you read this email, this plan, it reads like an intel briefing, and it's like this information only came from one place. And the thing is that we know this is what they were doing. The questions that I have is I think we just found out there's a ton of CIA sites in Ukraine. The question I have is why is Hunter Biden's buddy, bong smoking attorney friend being protected by the CIA at the DOJ? Like the DOJ during the Hunter Biden investigation was strictly forbidden from interviewing that attorney, and it's been shown that the CIA intervened on his behalf. I mean, is that his handler? Sure, I probably think so. Yeah, and so like these documents and this Wanitzer stuff, it's very important, and it's very important to point out because he's obviously sharing classified material with somebody without clearance. Number one. Number two, he kept them. Like, listen to this right here. Like, listen to this. Okay, so on the 16th, let's go back to that meeting at Chain Bridge. Do you think you were probably, based on the recording that you listened to recently of the transcript that you reviewed probably on the main floor of that hallway, library, den area at Chain Bridge Road? And during the conversation, when you're going through material, Biden talks about how I just found the classified documents. Tawanis says, yes, downstairs. And I think he's talking about Afghanistan and the decision whether to do a troop surge in 2009. But when he mentioned finding classified documents down there, what was your reaction? He says, honestly, I can't remember my reaction. And this is just crazy to me because, again, he's going over it. And he says, okay, well, let me just ask you this as a special agent. Let me just ask you a few. Can we start with start back up on questions? I assume you don't have a security clearance. I do not. So you don't have it. No. And in the course of your career as a journalist, as a writer, as a documenter or filmmaker, have you ever dealt with classified material? I mean, not unless like looking at them, but events, items, people that are classified or were kind of skirting on the edges of things that were classified, redacted. And then they go into the skiffs. Like this is just the thing was crazy about this is that number one, they redacted all of this, number one. And then number two, this dude destroyed a lot of the recordings and documents that he had once he found out the investigation fired up. Like this dude, you can't do that. And obviously, it's a two-tier justice system. So what's going to happen? Nothing. But I mean, this is pretty crazy stuff. And there's more to come from this. I wanted to go through this with everybody for the first time. If you guys want to come up and chat with me, it's cool. Like I know I normally like will do like a very like well presented space, have a couple speakers, and we kind of break deep dive stuff, and we can do that. But we can also have a chat. I think it's Friday. I think a lot of people are with their family tonight. I don't ever do anything on Fridays, so because that's kind of my rule. I might go out on Saturday, but definitely on Fridays. And yeah, that's kind of crazy too. So shout out to one of the listeners, BH. It says why, and this is from Oversight as well. It says while you shouldn't transport prostitutes within state lines, it's clearly a federal offense to transport them across state lines. Yeah, that's Mike. Oversight project files motion in Delaware case over Hunter Biden records. So I mean, they're not done. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep pushing. They're pushing on everything. Oversight's been very busy. Those guys over there have been working their ass off. And so keep this story in your eyesight. It's not over. And even when even if this DOJ is not going to do anything about it, unless Joe Biden pardons him, the incoming DOJ will do something about it. And see, that's what people don't understand. And I was talking with some people up on the Hill. I was talking with some people over at Oversight at Heritage, and they reminded me that yes, the only thing right now that the House can do is make criminal referrals, and as we saw today, they will ignore them. Right? Even Garland came out and says, "No, no, yeah, no, listen, I'm good. I don't have to follow it. I'm not going to. I'm not going to I'm not going to pursue charges for contempt of Congress. I'm good, you know. But Bannon and Navarro, yes, those guys need to go to jail. Well, Bannon went nuclear back on the 6th and was reposted today by Citizen Free Press. If you guys want to hear that, it's typical Bannon. But the post was This is Steve Bannon that will emerge from prison on November 1st. Get ready, Democrats. You mess with the wrong dude. 100 million votes for Trump. Lawfare is the greatest political miscalculation in history. It is. And that's why Mark Elias and Norm Eisen are panicking. And I was kind of mad at Congress yesterday. I think it was yesterday, because they had Andrew Bailey, right? Based Andrew Bailey, AG out of Missouri, one of the guys part of the Missouri v. Biden case, which we should see an opinion on soon. But they had Andrew Bailey up there, and they had Norm Eisen up there. And the only thing that they asked Norm Eisen about was stupid shit. And the Democrats used Norm Eisen to basically just propagandize and like make a public case to the public. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, are you kidding me? I mean, there was a couple moments, I suppose, but like, you had Norm Eisen up there, like, legit, like the same dude who, in his book, on camera, sat down with Michael Cohen in January, helped coach Michael Cohen for Trump's trial in New York, sits down with him and says, oh, yeah, no, listen. After I met with you, after you shopped that story to me, you know, but you were right about some things, my friend. Hell, I'll even play the clips so you guys can hear it for yourself. But I had 10 articles of impeachment. We only needed to use 2, but you were my inspiration to get 10. That's how far back Michael Cohen and Norm Eisen go. And like, it's just, yes, I know the judge is corrupt. I know his daughter fundraised. I know all these things, right? I know all these things. But like, legit, Congress had Norm Eisen up on Capitol Hill. I was just like, you know what? I was telling Savvy, she's here by the way. I was telling Savvy, I was like, if they just locked that room and gave me 30, 45 minutes with that guy, I would end his career. Like I have all of the receipts about who this guy is and about his anti-American activities and participating in color revolutions around the world, writing books about it, and then pulling it here using lawfare. I'd ask him about I'd ask him about the 2017 meeting that he had in the Obama White House with David Brock. Media Matters, by the way, another hall monitor going down in flames. You had a meeting in 2017 before Trump took office with Norm Eisen, David Brock, S.J. Terps, this Army intelligence, British intelligence officer from the UK, coming over, setting up a psychological influence operation machine for social media called the Disarm Framework. All those meetings took place in 2017. They took over Crew, which was originally supposed to be an ethics watchdog, and it turned into what it is now, Norm Eisen at the helm. And Crew is the weaponized lawfare that was all the impeachments. It was all of the lawfare around the country. They was part of 65 Project. It was all the lawfare against anybody representing Trump in election challenge cases. It was the Colorado Supreme Court decision. Same group that did a bunch of different lawfare and to figure out a way for the Secretary of State in Maine to unilaterally just decide that, no, we're not putting Trump on the ballot. Oh, no. But that's Norm, right? Norm, the same Norm that once Obama took over became his ethics czar in Obama administration and weaponized from that point, and also helped participate and facilitate what happened in Ukraine at Euromaidan 2014. Most likely, you could probably trace him back all the way to the Orange Revolution 2003, 2004 in Ukraine. And so that person was up on Capitol Hill. They didn't ask about censorship. They didn't ask about lawfare. I mean, really, they were more talking about Alvin Bragg. Now, one of the interesting things that they were talking about was Matthew Colangelo. And apparently on the 12th of July, which is a day after the case and the verdict, or I'm sorry, the sentencing in New York, they're going to have Alvin Bragg and Matthew Colangelo in front of Congress. But I mean, the damage is already done. And they had Norm Eisen in Congress at a hearing, and Andrew Bailey sitting 2 seats away from him. Like, now I did see, I guess Mike Johnson came out today about 4 hours ago. I'm seeing Anna Paulina Luna as well, saying that they are going to be moving forward if DOJ won't do anything regarding Merrick Garland. They're going to do something, but again, I'm not holding my breath. Where did I? Okay, this is Jim Jordan. So this essentially explains the entire New York case. I don't mean to keep jumping around, but it's all kind of related. I put this clip out on the 13th, so yesterday, and I'm still heavily shadow banned. But this is essentially him. This is Jim Jordan going over exactly who Matthew Colangelo is and exactly what happened and how corrupt this was. The DOJ comes in, they take the investigation away from the FEC, they table it. By the time they give it back to him, statute of limitations have run out, so FEC drops it. They're not even looking at it. Matthew Colangelo leaves his number 3 position at DOJ to go work as a frontline prosecutor in Alvin Bragg's Manhattan DA office, then brings this case after the New York legislature for 1 year changes the rules and says, no, you can revive that case. Yeah, that's what they did. So here's Jim Jordan on the Hill yesterday.
Trainer, I'm going to read from your testimony.
And this is Commissioner Trainer from the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission.
Trainer, I want to read from your testimony. They have sat idly by and allowed a state officer to assert federal jurisdiction where they themselves had taken jurisdiction and couldn't prosecute. I want you to unpack that sentence for us again real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the question. The Department of Justice, all of these claims with regard to the 100...
That sniveling weasel Norm Eisen sitting right there 2 seats away. Oh, that guy.
$30,000 from Ms. Daniels' steps.
Again, real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the question. The Department of Justice, all of these claims with regard to the $130,000 from Ms. Daniels stem from a complaint that was filed at the Federal Election Commission following the 2016 election.
You guys were investigating.
We were in the process of investigating that.
The DOJ came to you and said, stand down, we're taking over, and give us your information.
They asked us to abate that and several other...
DOJ meeting the Southern District of New York.
That's correct.
They took your information, and you guys, you voted to stand down and give it to the federal authority, right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And they determined that there was nothing there to prosecute other than Michael Cohen.
That's correct. Now, they took a very long time in doing it, and when they sent it back to us, we had no more authority to investigate because they sent it back to us, and we were barred by the statute of limitations from even investigating the normal civil things that we would look at with regard to those type of expenditures.
But your point here is they've sat idly by and allowed a state officer to assert federal jurisdiction where they themselves had intervened, to use a word, and taken jurisdiction from you and concluded there was nothing there regarding a federal statute, right?
That is
a quote federal crime that they come up with somewhere.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know what role Mr. Colangelo played in that investigation that took place when they took it away from the Federal Election Commission, did that investigation, and then he later left the office to go prosecute this at the state level.
Well, we're going to find that out on July 12th when Mr. Colangelo will be setting yours.
Yeah, I hope we find out, but I doubt it. Right. Yeah, so that's really it's a great snapshot of exactly how this happened. Now, I'm not going to get into the crafty details of what they did to turn it into some federal crime at the state level, but whatever. But that's essentially in a nutshell what happened, and it's really, really interesting. If you guys want to come up and chat with me, speak, totally cool with it. I'm just kind of chilling. I really wanted to go over the Zwanitzer stuff because there's going to be more information coming out from that. So staying up to date on that. I know that they're going to get those audio tapes of that interview. They'll win in court like they got the transcripts. So also fighting to get unredacted. I'm sure some of it you can't because they're probably talking about classified information, or they're going to say that they were. But we'll see. We'll see on that. Something else was interesting. So today, I had a big win, a personal win. I mean, we all have a win as Americans, but you know me, I've been chasing these guys for 3 years. So Stanford Internet Observatory, this is where Michael McFaul went. Michael McFaul was the ambassador to Russia, and he's a fellow at the Hoover Institute, and he brought over Renee DiResta. Listen, we all call her CIA Renee. It seems to me that she was only there for about 6 months. She seems to work in between groups like the Atlanticist, the Atlantic Council, Aspen Institute, the CIA. I don't know how important at the CIA she was, but she's just connected with all this intel swamp. Alex Stamos, and then also I added Kate Starbird. She worked with them a little bit. She was not at the Stanford Internet Observatory, but her work was pivotal in creating the algorithmic tools that could detect what they deemed mis and disinformation. And so this is from John Solomon. I shared this morning. The Stanford Internet Observatory is ditching outsourced election censorship following lawsuits and subpoenas. So if you guys don't know, there is not only was so okay. Let me back up a little bit. If you guys don't know, most of you I can see listening have been listening, but there is right now a decision up at SCOTUS. It's in regards to the injunction. So it was a temporary injunction, meaning an emergency injunction, temporary but emergency, that basically prevented the White House, the CDC, Surgeon General's office. Initially, it was CISA and EIP and all of the NGO censorship cutouts. Okay. Well, the judge in that case, in Missouri v. Biden, Andrew Bailey being the AG, at the time, Jeff Landry was AG. He is now the governor of Louisiana, but his AG is based as well, and the Secretary of State. And so they had this case. Terry Doty in the Fifth Circuit said no. CISA, which is the cybersecurity outfit out of the DHS, Department of Homeland Security. Nope, CISA can't put any requests to social media. Nope, these NGOs, these cutouts like Stanford Internet Observatory, Alex Stamos, Renee DiResta, all these people, Kate Starbird, all these people. Nope, you're not allowed. You cannot censor American speech. You cannot force social media companies to do so. Also, the White House cannot as well. So we're talking the comms director at the time, Andy Slavitt took over, but at the time it was Rob Flaherty. And Rob Flaherty was known as the bully of Silicon Valley, right? He was working for Joe Biden's administration. He's been replaced since these cases started. Andy Slavitt took over, but it's one and the same. Jen Psaki's in it as well. So basically, they're saying that Doty said, nope, none of you guys can do this with social media companies. Okay. Then it goes to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. There's 3-judge panel on the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And they basically gutted the entire decision of censorship except for a slim line. And by the way, the NGOs were cut out of the decision. Originally, CISA was cut out of the decision. We made a lot of noise, had a lot of effort, a lot of political pressure. Fifth Circuit added CISA back into the injunction. So basically, it's the White House, Surgeon General, CISA, maybe CDC, are in this injunction are forbidden from censoring American speech. So the government in this case argued that no, we should be able to do this, and it's going to prevent us from getting messages to normal Americans dealing with misinformation and getting the truth to them. So you're right to talk to the American people is not being infringed here. You're right to tell other companies what Americans can or can't say is the infringement. But the government argues, and so they're taking it to the Supreme Court. This injunction, the injunction was designed. The case hasn't even gone through yet. This was an injunction, emergency injunction, to stop it now, to stop the bleeding now, until the case resolves. And that injunction, we should be getting we're supposed to be getting an opinion on that from the Supreme Court this month. I've been waiting on it. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Well, the reason I'm telling you all of this, so I can bring you up to speed on this, is that when that decision comes down, and I think they will, because some other decisions, they're actually, matter of fact, the bump stock decision that came out today, that language reads very close to Chevron deference language, and I think we're going to get a win there too, and I'll go over that later. But so, if the opinion is of the court, say 6-3, 5-4, who knows? That injunction holds. They have legal liabilities of censoring or not censoring from these offices, so they could be legally held, liable. They'll do it anyway, but now there's a mechanism, and so that's expected to come down. The reason I'm saying all of that is because still Renee DiResta, SIO, Stanford Internet Observatory, all these NGOs were cut out of that decision. Well, guess what? Another case fired up down in Louisiana around the same time is Hines v. Stamos, and that's Alex Stamos. And that case is directly going after only the NGOs in the same Fifth Circuit in front of the same judge. So they're now disbanding all of these cutouts and these NGOs. Just this week alone, Media Matters down, or like within the last month, Media Matters downsized, as we saw. They had a hemorrhaging of their employees. So Media Matters, you guys know who Media Matters are. The SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, is having troubles. Stanford Internet Observatory is disbanding. Renee DeResta has been kicked out of Stanford. And they say it's because, I'll tell you exactly what she says. They say, so I'll tell you this first. So the Election Integrity Partnership, which turned into the Virality Project at the SIO, first it was elections, then it was COVID, had a 35% success rate in the 2020 election cycle by its own tracking in convincing tech platforms to suppress narratives overwhelmingly by conservatives through labeling, removal, soft blocking, meaning users had to reject a warning to see them. Stanford disputed the organization was shutting down, telling the platform it's important the SIO continues under new leadership, including its critical work on child safety and other online harms. But they're shutting it down. It's done. And so with the subpoenas that came from Congress, the lawsuits that are happening in the Fifth Circuit, Jay Bhattacharya is as part of that lawsuit. They're done. They're disbanding it. They said it's unsustainable. Too many lawsuits and subpoenas. So that's good. And so a big week this week for the hall monitors. Big week for us going after them. Let me see what else I can add to that real quick. Revolver put out a great post. Yeah. So Media Matters is on trial. This is Andrew Bailey. Ken Paxton, I think, joined that. So it's 2 state AGs going after Media Matters. Chris Pavlovsky at Rumble's suing Media Matters, I believe. Stanford Internet Observatory shuttered. SPLC gutted. Oliver Darcy sputtering. Yeah, Oliver Darcy's been having some melties. These are all the hall monitors we've been dealing with like the last since 2016. All these people, man. And also to remind you guys, Rep Sessions sent a subpoena to Georgetown Law for Rosa Brooks, where they did the Transition Integrity Project, and where that came from. And that's going to be pretty damaging because they're having to protect their records now. And what happens, not only just what happened, but what happens at Georgetown Law is really damning for all of us. And this is where a lot of this shit's cooked up. And you've got Mary McCord, Rosa Brooks, all of these people, even what's her name? The color revolutionary extraordinaire. What's her name?
Maria Stephan.
Maria Stephan. Thank you. There's been investigations in with her as well. So there's a lot coming, and we had a lot of booms this week. And expect June to yield some great fireworks early from July 4th. So we'll stay tuned to that. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Millie, I think, is with her kids tonight. They're having an event with Heritage, so those guys won't make it over here. They'll probably come over for the next one, and we'll have them break down, give us updates of what everything's going on. Like I said, I know Mike Johnson brought this up today, and I'm pretty sure that looks like Anna Paulina Luna saying that DOJ is not above the law, grounds not above the law, inherent contempt will be called up and brought to the floor. Yeah, so they're going to bring it up to the floor for a vote. It's not going to go well, but they're doing everything they can over there, I guess. I mean, they're also selling us out. They passed the NDAA today, so that's great. $800 billion for military spending. Wonderful. So yeah, a lot going on. I did check. Here's the thing. I went through it. Matter of fact, I bookmarked it. Let me send it to myself so I can read it on the computer. I was going through that NDAA today. And I did not see where they renewed the Foreign Malign Influence Center. If you guys don't know what that is, the Foreign Malign Influence Center was essentially so if you guys remember Nina Jankowicz, she was part of the Disinformation Governance Board, and they got all shut down. She lost her job and all those things. You think it went away? Well, what they did was they repackaged it, and they put it into this thing called the Foreign Malign Influence Center. And it finally went live April of last year, but it was approved in the 2018 NDAA. They repurposed it, repackaged it, and then it went live after they disbanded the Disinformation Governance Board, and they repackaged it and put it in the Foreign Malign Influence Center. And the guy running it, lifetime career CIA, of course. But I went through it. I did a cursory search through this 1,022-page bill that was just agreed upon in the House today. And they're all celebrating, oh, we got all the woke shit out, whatever, that's fine. But you're also funding $800 billion to a military and most likely codifying censorship into it. So I went through it, though. I didn't see it. And so that's interesting to me. It may not be up for renewal yet, but it's in there. I'm looking for it. I'm trying to stay on top of things, man. It's crazy out there in this hood. But I think the tide's turning. I think you're seeing some things. We're going to win, and it's going to take a long time to try to fix some of this. And it's going to be an ongoing war forever of people trying to take this stuff back. I think I saw today where, Kyle puts this out. Apparently, new FBI agent is a recovering heroin addict. Apparently, they changed the rules that as long as you're off of heroin for a year, you can join the FBI. Oh, what is happening? So, yeah, sorry guys. I was hoping for a bigger space, hoping to get the guys in here, but it's Friday night. I'll plan one for next week. I'll get some of the guys from Oversight in here, and I know they're working on a ton more stuff. And there's going to be some surprises coming up very soon, so pay attention to that. There's a story that Muckraker put out. So you guys know about the missing children, right? From the border and all that stuff. Well, they started tracking down some of these addresses that are listed as, so they've obtained a list of addresses where some of the 85 missing children have been delivered under the Biden administration. One of the addresses are in Amityville, New York, and it is an abandoned house. So the children are gone. They're part of a system now. I mean, it's probably sex work something. So that's going. Mike, what are you even doing here, dude? Aren't you guys like partying or something? Aren't you guys like partying or something, Mike? What's up?
Here, yeah, we had a big old pig roast to celebrate the huge legal wins, and there are a lot of them. But I'm here with the legal team. We got Country Law, and for the first time ever on a Twitter space, Maximilian.
Let's go. What's up, guys?
We're chilling. Got a lot of pig. If anyone needs pig, we cooked 100 pounds of it. Pig for everyone.
Hell yeah, dude. I went through stories of the week, but I started with these transcripts, and I know you guys are pushing to get the audio, and I know you guys are also pushing to get the audio of the Robert Hur Biden interview. Anything else you guys are working on?
Yeah, well, let's stick on the audio for a second.
Yeah.
There's about to be some big news there. Everyone here likes superhero movies. We're about to get together, and we've spent the last 2 weeks doing this, all of the biggest legal names you can ever imagine. I'm talking people I don't even like on the right wing, all to unite, and one, to represent us in such a case, and two, to provide sworn declarations about how this assertion of executive privilege is way beyond the law. And we're just going to have such a tsunami of credibility from a bipartisan slant. Keep in mind, Senator Mark Warner, a Democrat. He's a Democrat, hard Dem. He's on our side. CNN is on our side. You look, Jamie Raskin, that little pickle of a congressman, doesn't even defend executive privilege assertion. Jerry Nadler refused to defend it. And so we're playing to that weakness now. We've spent the last 2 weeks getting together every single person conceivably who wants to stand up for the Constitution and the right of access to information. And we're going to overwhelm the court with this amount of legal pressure. And I think that, the district court, they have their handfuls. Maybe we go to appeals, maybe we go to SCOTUS. But we're going to make it so difficult for Biden to withhold these tapes. Let's just fucking go. Here's Country Law.
Country Law, what's up, brother?
What's happening, Trash? How are you?
Good, sir. Good, man. This is great. Go ahead.
This is an absolute outrage, what they're trying to do. They're afraid to let it come out. They don't want us to hear our senile president. So, and we have to get the tapes. Basically, what they're arguing now is that it would make such a burden on the Department of Justice going forward, they could never get an interview again. And they know that's not a great argument to have. They know for a fact that the political pressure for anyone who's in office is going to be so tremendous that they're always going to have to do an interview with a special counsel. So it's garbage. It's a trash argument.
Yeah, not to insult your name, Trash. I think country law.
I would never do so.
Didn't intend that. Here's where we're at. To put this bluntly, I know a lot of people here are experts in a lot of fields, but this isn't legally complicated. They basically cited the most absurd defense you can imagine for one reason only, to delay. They want to hide this tape so badly. And so what we're doing right now is just conquering the dumbest arguments. I mean, I got a 3-year-old, I got a 1-year-old. I hear dumb arguments all day. Okay, but their benefit is that the court system is slow and they're playing to that. And so that's our weakness right now. So to overcome that, we're, for the first time in not only Oversight Project history, but I think everyone who's on our team's history, working across party lines. There are liberals who are going to come out of the closet to say this assertion of executive privilege is absurd. Because can you imagine if they had to go on record and defend this, what this could mean 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line for them? They're going to kill Trump on these claims all the time. And so they know that. They know Biden's a lame duck. And so we're feasting off that weakness right now. And we got another big bombshell unrelated to this we're going to drop next week. It has something to do with the perceptions of Biden's incontinence issues.
Let's go. Oh, I'm here for it. We will definitely garner everybody back up. It was a kind of a slow night tonight, as it's Friday. Everyone's kind of doing their thing, getting into summer. But there's a lot of people that are kind of running with this now, Mike. And again, you pointed something out earlier, and I want to point this out as well. This is something that I have been like laser honed in on for like the last 6 months. Well, really since January of last year. And what it was you've got the Obama camp using like Politico. You got Hillary's camp using like New York Times. I mean, even Axelrod and Carville are out there, because basically what's happening is that there were rumors going around, and you're seeing it pop up in all these like you're like all of a sudden you're like, why are all these left wing rags dumping on Biden? It's because Biden thinks he's a legend in his own mind, and he really believes that for the perceived success of the Obama administration, which I would argue there was absolutely nothing but total destruction, but to their perceived success on the left and their establishment, they believed it. And this is something I've been pointing out. I'm like, look, you can see this clear as day. You see this Politico piece saying he could hand over the torch to the next generation at the convention and retire with dignity. That's Obama, baby. And they've been trying to get meetings inside that White House, and the staffers don't like each other apparently. And Biden is not giving up. He's too arrogant. He's too stupid. And the people like the BlackRocks and the National Security Council that have their hands completely all over this administration, they don't want to let it go either. And so they're basically fighting him at every turn. And I think this is why we're seeing, well, yes, 2 parts. Number one, I know Democrats think it'll come to bite them in the ass when they want to go after Trump. Number one, I know that. But number two, I really believe that they're like, yo, Biden is an absolute devastation for our campaign for 2024. We're going to get wrecked. And if this dude won't give up the reins, like, we've got to find a way to make him so toxic that he steps down. And I think ultimately, I think that's why Nadler and Raskin and all these people also are throwing their hat in the ring. And I know all of these legacy media outlets have been trying to get that information, like New York Times, Washington Post. You mentioned the other ones. All of them are going after. I'm sure they're going to link arms with you on this one, Mike, because they all want it, because they know what's at stake here, and Biden is just doing Biden things.
Yeah, hey Trash, this is Max stepping in from the OP legal team.
Hey, Max.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, man, good. Thanks for joining us, guys. By the way, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Hey, we love to do this. We love to get our message out to the people. You know what I think it is too about Biden is that the American people, foreign leaders, we just saw Maloney carting off Biden all around after after the parachuter comes down, and everyone can see that he's just completely stalling. I mean, at some point, it's just sad. Nobody wants to watch their grandpa look like an old man on TV. And the Democrats are picking up on it. Everyone's picking up on it. There's not a single person out there right now who doesn't see the man up there crapping his pants, saying all type of bumbling, doing all types of goofy stuff. and nobody wants to see it. So it's no surprise to us that, you know, that he's being completely ridden out by his own party. I mean, his own staffers, like you said, Trash, they don't want him there. They don't want him there. And so, you know, that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're trying to highlight.
Yeah, and I think it's smart to build this coalition. Look, will we fight these guys? I'll be fighting them. I'm like, look, this is the point I've made, right? I've had a normal job for years. Always been interested in politics. I liked on the side to do some investigations. It was only for my own knowledge. I was tired of being lied to in the 2000s and the later 2010s. I was just tired of being lied to. A lot of things shook me awake. I was in finance at the time in 2008, 2009, lost everything, and so like it's been a process. But I've always had another job, and these people post 2016, 2017 have pushed me to the point where I'm never going to let this down, and I am only going to be getting, you know, building, and building, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like these people have pushed me too far, and I think they've pushed a lot of people too far, and I think that was their biggest mistake. And the reason that I always are paying attention to what you guys are doing over at Oversight and what Heritage is doing, because the only people actually doing real work out there. Everybody else is just like, oh, let me bitch on the internet for 2 hours and then collect my Patreon and go home. No. So if you're going to beat lawfare, you have to fight through the courts. And that's why you guys are doing the Lord's work over there. And if right now we got to link arms with some people to get this stuff out there, then so be it. I'll fight you later, kind of thing. I don't know what you guys would feel, but that's how I feel about it.
Crash, thank you so much for that. I mean, that's right. We are going to have to engage in the same lawfare that they have engaged against us for 20 years, and we have taken it standing. I mean, we've just taken it. So, you know, one thing that we're also doing is trying to get records about what Hunter Biden was doing with the Mann Act. You know, we know from his laptop that he was transporting prostitutes across state lines, and the Department of Justice is just not going to give any records over that. And why would they? That's going to tank an already toxic presidency. You know, we're looking at inflation like we've never seen before. We're looking at probably the smallest amount of business starts we have ever seen in this country. There's no dynamicism. There's no entrepreneurship in this country anymore. This country is kind of beaten down and broken because they know that their government is never going to take care of them. And at the same time, we've got the president's son who, whenever he's not lying about being addicted to drugs, whenever he's buying a firearm, is transporting prostitutes across state lines. It's outrageous. No wonder Americans don't have any faith in their government anymore.
Yeah, and even just to add on that, I mean, why are we like lauding some crack addict? You know, I mean, I remember Dave Chappelle. We used to make fun of him. What are we doing now? What are we doing? Why do we have Democrats talking about how this guy is just going through it?
Hey, trash, Mike here, cutting in, because I wanna tell you about a little nugget that we laid about a year ago. Did we start the Mann Act lawsuit?
We started that was about probably November or December of last year.
Trash, you know what the Mann Act is?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I've been yelling about it since that laptop came out.
All right, let's go. We just filed a brief on it. I'm going to turn it over to the lawyers to tell you what it said.
Max, hit us with it.
Yeah, well, you know, I think the main thing is that we're trying to get records about this investigation and why DOJ is not prosecuting them on the Mann Act.
Well, what is the Mann Act for those who don't know?
So, well, the Mann Act essentially has to do with taking prostitutes across state lines, and the state, DOJ, federal government, gets a right to sue for the victims of that crime, and the DOJ is just not doing that. I mean, this guy's out here listening to Fleet Foxes smoking crack. This isn't the poster child that we need to be lauding up here, and that's exactly what DOJ is doing. We're essentially saying, yeah, this is the president's son. Yeah, he's got a crack addiction, and we're not going to prosecute him for it. And so DOJ is essentially stonewalling us, telling us that these records are part of their ongoing investigation, even though they aren't charging the Mann Act violation at all. So it's just complete the Politburo DOJ continuing to stonewall Americans' access to information that is vital to the electorate.
Hey, Trash, would you like to know one of the reasons they said that they can't release those records?
I would love to hear it.
Hunter Biden's reputation would be damaged. Now, this is a guy who got his I know. Don't laugh. This is a guy who got his dead brother's wife addicted to crack cocaine.
Right.
But releasing any records about him is going to damage his reputation.
Right.
We've already damaged enough. What's left to do?
There is nothing left. And, you know, you got these people and members of Congress. The only thing Joe Biden's guilty of is loving his son too much. Yeah. And apparently the rest of the family, too, if we take a look at the diary. But, Mike, you actually did a hit on news.
So true.
But to be fair, Mike, you did a hit on Newsmax, and this was something that I've been yelling about with this. Everybody's like, "Oh, Aaron, take the win." I'm like, I mean, I'll take a small win, but it was a cover up because you actually did a hit. This was out back on the 12th. I shared this out. The things that Hunter wasn't charging for: running an international pay-to-play business with his father as a product, transporting prostitutes across state line, Mann Act, failing to register as a foreign agent, FARA. This is what I've been yelling about, and this is why I'm paying very close attention to what's coming up in September. Although I don't have much hope there either. But what's in that case in September proves the pay-to-play scheme. Like, not to mention we have all of these receipts anyway. The laptop confirmed to be real in public record in Delaware. So, like, now it's all there. So what are we going to do in September? And I think that I'm not going to give up on this. I know Johnson and Grassley aren't giving up on this. I don't know what Comer's doing. It seems like he's not giving up on it, but I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it, but so this is it. Like, FARA is the one, right? Because and we already know a lot of this stuff is already in public record. I mean, Patrick Ho, that case is already done. CEFC is already done. All of the suspicious activity reports to Treasury, we already have them, and that's what I want to see happen with that as well. And the Mann Act, that's important.
You're 100% right, but let me do a mind shift real quick. Everyone here knows that Hunter and Joe are guilty of everything well beyond that. Okay, we are amongst like the 5% maybe who understand that and track that. You have about 80% of the country's functionally aware that Hunter should be in trouble for something else or other. But here's the real problem. Here's who I'm actually pissed at. I'm not as pissed at the DOJ or Hunter or Joe. Who I'm pissed at are the people that we vest with power through our votes in this constitutional republic that we're supposedly fighting for. The people we give our limited authority to go out and do the things that we need to be done. I'm talking about Jim Jordan. I'm talking about the House of Representatives. I'm talking about state attorney generals, because the reason why we're left to flail and talk and point and be on Twitter spaces and point at other crimes is because they have not done the one thing they were asked to do. And that was the most basic thing in the world. Defend our republic in the sense of applying the law equally. And instead, what they're doing is they're grifting off this entire scandal, which, you know, scandal is a stupid word. The most corrupt first family in the history of the United States. We're talking about a family that has CCP and Ukrainian leverage over it at a time where we have given how much to Ukraine, how much to the CCP, and the Republican Congress has gone away with it. And so the grift and the corruption and the problem set, even though we want to focus on the Bidens who deserve it more than anyone else, the rot is so friggin' deep. And these grifters who tell us they're fighting and are not fighting are just sipping on the fumes of it. And that's what pisses me off. And I think before we win the war, we have to win the battle. And the first battle is to get better generals. And our generals just suck right now. And that's why we're in court. And you mentioned the great Ron Johnson. Actually, in fact, Country Law and I were here last night cooking the pig because we had to put a pig on about 24 hours in advance. We had an envelope in the mail. The envelope, and it's unusual for us to get like a manila envelope with my home address, is from Senator Ron Johnson, who sent us a congratulatory note for our 100th lawsuit and actually doing the fight that everyone else should be doing. So Ron John's a hero, Comer's a hero. There's just a lot of grifters out there.
Well, and Mike, so actually, man, there was an article that circulated around, and then you did a couple of hits, and you were talking about the unused funds that were already apportioned, that you can set up some kind of legal apparatus. Can you kind of explain that to folks? Because it's a really, really great idea.
Yeah. All right. This is my white whale. So my guys are laughing. Max and Country Law are giggling because they've heard this probably 200 times for the past 2 years. So you remember McCarthy's treacherous road to become speaker, the 17 votes or whatever. One of the conditions that was negotiated for him to become speaker, and I was involved in this condition, was that we needed to take the January 6th funding levels and then roll them over to next Congress and use them to establish a equivalent committee. Okay, so we're talking about $18 million of money. And then the midnight deal, they decided not to do that, and they set up the Weaponization Committee. The Weaponization Committee was set up as a subcommittee of judiciary. No new authority, no new people. Basically a new shingle to cover existing activity. And so we called it out as soon as it happened and got a lot of heat for it. Then over the course of time, everyone was saying, you guys got to shut up. You're hurting. No pissing inside the tent. Let them cook. Those kind of things. A year and a half later, Trump is convicted. And so we started sounding the alarm again, and we checked the budget numbers. They haven't spent any of that money. They're tipping the Biden administration, returning to the Treasury all those funds. Why is the obvious question. Like, a lot of people are like, why would they do that? The answer is kind of not that impressive. It's that the House of Representatives, the congressmen who end up in those positions, they just don't want to change business as usual. They're used to the Fox News cycle of sending a letter, holding a hearing, and that being the reward cycle. They don't want to adapt to the levels that Democrats adapted to when they caused absolute mayhem through the January 6th committee. And so to that end, what we are publicly calling for, and I'd appreciate anyone on this call adding to it, is to simply take the money. And by take the money, I mean the money that's already there. And instead of giving it back to Joe Biden, and just giving it to somebody to rain hell through subpoenas, depositions, inherent contempt, which means handcuffs, by the way, and just do the things that everyone's asking. Because if you turn on Fox News tonight, you'll probably hear someone talking about how they're going to do so much oversight. There's only 27 legislative days left in this Congress. 27 days. They're not going to do a damn thing. And so they need to give the money to someone to do something. And so that's basically the concept.
No, it's huge. And again, that's what's needed. And that actually has real teeth. And, I saw Mike Johnson tweet, but then I saw Anna Paulina Luna, she's a fighter, talking about this inherent contempt that they're going to be pushing for. But that's just a piece. Like, we're talking about millions of dollars that we're just going to hand back to the administration that was actually allocated that can be used for good. Like you said, there's only 27 legislative days left in this Congress. And so
it's over, bro. It's over.
Yeah. So let's get it going. Like we could do this for sure.
We fucking could. We could. Sorry for my curse word. We could.
I've been cursing.
All right, now I'm brought up. I literally ripped the phone away from Max and Neil because I'm pissed off. And I've been pissed off for a while. Here's the thing. They don't want to do something. What they want is a significant amount of boomers and Twitter followers to just celebrate their acknowledgement of the process. Here's the greatest example of this. And Matt Gaetz deserved the Medal of Honor for this. Jim Jordan had a hearing the other day, and he rallied the troops in Washington, D.C. He actually had an undercover meeting here in D.C. because he's so under fire for not doing anything, where he said, I'm going to have this big hearing, and I'm going to talk about Alvin Bragg, and we're going to be really mean when we talk about it. And during that hearing, Matt Gaetz, who's a terrific lawyer, by the way, I don't care what you think about him. A lot of people have a lot of opinions about him, but he's a smart guy and an attorney. And he basically stood up at the beginning of the hearing and said, why are you sending Alvin Bragg a voluntary request? Why are you not sending him a subpoena? And he offered an amendment to turn their voluntary pen pal BS into a subpoena. And do you know what Jim Jordan did? He recessed the hearing. He closed the hearing down. And they adjourned for 30 minutes. And they went outside and everyone freaked out. And they finally came back in and basically said, all right, Matt Gaetz had made his point and agreed to withdraw the amendment because making the point was basically the whole opportunity there. And they proceeded on back to their just BS grips about the whole thing. And that's what we're reduced to right now. And the only thing that fixes this, and it sucks to say, is President Trump realizing that people on Capitol Hill are not defending him and are not attacking the enemy. That's what's happening now. We've done no damage to the other side via the power of Congress. They've done no defense to President Trump, let alone the everyday American who's being harassed by the FBI. And consultants are getting rich. Lobbyists are getting rich. Ukraine's getting rich. Zelensky's getting rich. It is a giant waste. And so all of my anger right now, I already know who we are up against in the global sense. The woke evil left. I get that. But we will never get to them unless we get through the bullshit right-wing professional class. And so that's what we're trying to do. That's why we're in court.
Yeah, no. I was actually watching that live. I clipped a couple of them. I was clipping Matt Gaetz until I saw this happen. It was so crazy. And so what happened was, just to kind of add more color to that, I think Matt was doing great for like the first 10 minutes or so. And then he basically he dropped that on the room. I saw Jim Jordan mute up. And then basically they went to recess for like, I think it was like 15, 20 minutes or something like that. They came back, says, okay, it's been satisfied. Because the whole point was, what is the point of having, voluntary subpoenas for July 12th when sentencing is July 11th? And the two people who should have been sitting in front of Congress, don't even get me started on how they didn't say anything to Norm Eisen. That really, you had Norm, anyway, I'll rant about Norm in a second. But they came back. The whole point of getting a compelled subpoena to get them to testify, they should have been at that Congress right then, right there, before sentencing, was because Matthew Colangelo, who was number 3 at DOJ, demotes himself and then goes to work as a frontline prosecutor for Alvin Bragg at the Manhattan DOJ or Manhattan DA. Well, what's worse than that is that he was also at DOJ when they took the investigation away from the FEC, held on to it for long enough, just long for the statute of limitations to run out. Then Colangelo demotes himself, goes over to Manhattan DA as a frontline prosecutor, and then just revives this case. They changed the law to New York for a year. Kathy Hochul comes out and says, no, listen, don't worry, everybody. The law was changed for a year for just Trump, and we promise it's just Trump. Like, that's not any better. That's actually far worse. Like, that is selective prosecution. And so you're telling me that you can't have Alvin Bragg, of what his ties were, and Matthew Colangelo compelled to show up prior to sentencing and just be like, no, listen, July 12th is fine. We'll talk to them then. That's wild to me. And I would like to know what was said that changed that, because Matt was on fire until that happened. And that pissed me off.
Yeah, I'll tell you real quick, and the guys are jumping in, and I'll give a little teaser to the crowd. Max may be upset, but Max used to work for the great Matt Gaetz, so he might have a little bit of insight into that. Here's what I think was said. Jim Jordan wants to be Speaker of the House, okay? And so that means that Jim Jordan is not the Jim Jordan we grew up on. He's Diet Jim Jordan right now, okay? And so to become Speaker, you need the whole party basically to vote for you and support you. And so he does not want to pick subpoena fights that are hard votes for liberal New York Republicans or your Don Bacons, your red state, just weak-kneed Republicans. And so instead of fighting, he's trying to build a base of support for his Speaker run. What that means in practice is that we aren't getting anything done. That means we are as strong as our weakest possible link. That is why we're pushing so hard for them to basically just adjourn and hire somebody else to do it for them. They could give all the money that they're going to give back to Biden anyways and hire an external party to do everything that they cannot do politically. And it's so simple and it's just so dumb that they'll never do it. And they'll never do it because doing it would be to admit that, frankly, they suck. And so they can't do it. But Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll just say what everybody's thinking. Congress is fake and gay, and they're all conservatives. They don't actually care about American interests. They don't care about the American people, the people who are, connected to this place, to this, to this, this society, this culture, our religious, social, shared cultural values. They don't care about them. The people that are in charge of the conservative party do not care and actually hate the people that vote for them. That's what it is. It's plain and simple. It's plain and simple. Everyone across America sees what's going on. No one believes Jim Jordan is doing a damn. No one believes anybody in Congress is doing a damn. And even if you have a favorite congressman, you know that at the end of the day, it's all fake and gay. And that's the end of it.
It is true. It is true. And Matt, I'm a fan of Matt. I can probably point out 11 or 12 that they do things retrospectively to their committees and what they do, and I'm a fan of what they do. I'd say about 11 or 12. It's probably a little high, but there's a handful. All right, and even then, I still get frustrated with. But I understand there's a game. But one of the things that Matt does specifically that I'm very much a fan of is that he'll go on to somebody's podcast like Timcast and just absolutely lay out exactly how the influence game works when you come to Congress, how it works, how the lobbyists work. Oh, you want to be on the Armed Services Committee? Wow. Tell you what, here's a great steak and a glass of wine. Matter of fact, at the table, you wouldn't believe it. You want to get on that committee? I've got somebody right here because I know you got to raise a bunch of money in the first 100 days. So I'll tell you what, this is going to be a great thing for you. You can work hand in hand. We'll get you, and that's really how it is because no one wants to fundraise. At least Matt's the one talking about it. The one motion to vacate fight was excellent. I was like, okay, we're finally doing something. But yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, most of it's all fake and gay and stupid. But I still have to live in this country, and so I'm going to put all my time and weight behind people like you guys, and people that are actually doing this shit. And maybe, just maybe, we'll eke out a win here or there, and we can start to tear it back a little bit. Because I know it's all about the money, but the money will move where the popularity is as well.
Trash, this is all great points. You know what, though? I think that we may be getting into a little bit of a negative space right now. And what would be a good thing is to think about like some positivity that's happening in the world.
Some who were beaten up.
You know, look, we just saw incredible elections in Europe. Almost every mainstream government that supported all of the neoliberalism, mass immigration got blown out. The parties that actually care about the people in their countries are winning. And I think the American people are waking up to the same thing. And you know what? It is a nightmare right now. Things are bad. We've got a Democratic Congress that is just not marish in the Senate. We have a president who is out to lunch. And the scary part about that is he is having all of his agenda put through by people who despise this country. They want to destroy it. But they're not going to be there for long. So we got to keep positive on that. Trump's coming back in. We're going to have people who are fighters, who care about this country. They're going to come in. Let's stay positive, guys.
Oh no, let me be clear. Like listen, there's a lot of. I'm actually one of the jokes is that I'm actually known as the serial white pillar. When everyone's doom and gloom, I'm like, hey, actually, here's 15 positive things going on right now that we have to look forward to. And I did the same thing that you did right there. It's also Friday, and I wanted to call Congress fake and gay with my friends on the space. But yes, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. That is why I'm in this fight. I mean, if I thought all hope was lost and I was hopeless, I wouldn't be doing any of this. And I spend a lot of time doing this, and just like you guys do. And so, no. There's a lot of really positive things. And I think that we can change things. And I think we have the ability to. And there's some great people. I can tell you personally, I know a few of them that are in that Trump campaign that will have positions in this administration. And they are great, fantastic people. And a lot of the work that's being done on the ground right now, I mean, listen, for better, for worse, what I'll tell you is this. Despite, like, even Frank Luntz was beside himself, right? Despite all the lawfare, despite all the legacy media one-sided, despite all the censorship, despite everything, he keeps winning because that campaign that they're running right now is spectacular. And so,
dude, it's boring. I don't like it. It used to be so much more fun, but it's going to work this time.
But guys, hey, I just want to drop in. Trash, thanks for letting me jump up. Mike, I completely agree with you. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I just have to.
Especially the part where you agreed with me.
Okay, I totally agree with you. We need to stay positive, but at the same time, with how this party is and how the base it typically is, which is tame, they're pissed, but they keep their mouth shut. And they're not rabid. They're not like a dog with a bone until it gets done. So I just dropping that in, just my 2 cents, like, right now, the base is so fucking pissed, and you can see by the comments, you can see by, with just day-to-day business, day-to-day work. People are very mad, and that includes California, where I'm at. We need to keep this up. Like, the temperature needs to rise, and people need to let their reps know that they are sick of it. And if these guys don't stand up for America, they're gone. They're gone.
Yep, you're absolutely right. But here's what I want to challenge you to.
Yep.
Okay, we talked a lot about Congress.
Yep.
And I work on Capitol Hill. I've been around that for 15 years. They're irrelevant. Even if Trump wins, which he will, God willing,
We don't know that
Congress
yet.
does not matter. Congress does not matter. And so what's going to happen is rapid executive action. Congress, in what we're doing at the Oversight Project and with Trash and with Roman and Sam, who are in this chat, is we're displacing Congress and their oversight and investigative function. What Trash and the Sleuth Army do, and with Undead, I saw him in here. Undead is 100 yards ahead of Jim Jordan and $100 million of congressional action. What we're proving to the American people is what I think the founders, and they probably had no idea what Twitter was, right? Like, we are proving citizens can go out there and figure stuff out and drive agendas, find facts, drive narratives, and achieve change. And so what's really happening is the Fox News commentariat set and these Mickey Mouse Club congressmen are irrelevant. And that's why I love being on these spaces. That's why I love Trash and Sam and Roman and everyone else. I see Jack and Undead. This is like a citizen-led revolution, essentially, information. The only question in my mind is if the election can be secure enough that we can actually take it. If there is even an 8% cheating delta, I think we're taking this country back.
Well, there's going to be cheating. They're going to fight harder than ever, and we already know that. But my biggest issue is that the GOP is consistently behind the 8 ball, and we are not. If it were me at the top, we are not doing audits. We are going to win it. And I would have a citizen army, and I do not mean militia, but on the ground, embedded in the USPS, every election office at every freaking level. And that needs to happen. Like, we have a few months, and, we can all be hopeful that they're white hats, but, like, all of us, everyday people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But
it's
what
a
state
couple
do you live
hours
in?
of our lives, like for a few weeks, for a few months, to get in on the ground. If you do some research, or somebody do a quick Google search, the amount of Democrat jobs that are out there, the amount of groups that are hiring for election positions at every level, Republican ones, very, like, maybe 5% compared to what I see from the DNC. And then when I did as a test, tried to reply in the GOP site, it's horrible. The whole user interface is ridiculous. Anyhow, my
All right,
point is
hold on 1 second. What state are you in, real quick? Because
I'm in California.
Yeah.
all right. Well, you're hopeless, but it'll.
Yeah, but at the same time, at the local level, like, we need to get Garvey in. We need to start flipping some of these city positions, because California is pissed too. Anyways, Trash, you're amazing. All of you guys are amazing. Thanks for the hope. I just want people to still, like, we have to fight.
All right.
We all have to do our
Drink
part.
the hopium, because our top litigator, Sam Dewey, who never comes on Twitter, he's the one who argues to deport Prince Harry. He has won cases against Garland. He's in over 100 lawsuits. Has hand raised and Trash has him unmuted. The great Sam Dewey, what you got?
Thanks for that, Mike. Really appreciate it. Great intro. Look, I just wanted to say, I think that is a good point. First of all, just real quickly to respond to the earlier comment about we don't have enough people out there, and there is an issue with resources on our side, and that's part of the weaponization, that because the corporate culture has been weaponized, if you serve in a Democratic administration, if you work Democratic politics, you always have a home. Not so much on our side, and our side needs to figure out, how do we deal with that? How do we push back on that? Because it's just a double standard. And if it doesn't get fixed, it's going to continue. I just wanted to say real quickly and follow up on the discussion we were having about Alvin Bragg coming to D.C. And I think that something you all can look for, and something that I think it would be interesting to ask people about, is, well, okay, they're smart lawyers, Bragg and Coangelo. If they're coming here, that means that they want to be here. If they're coming voluntarily, they think that they're going to win that exchange. They're going to come out on top. And I think The reason for that is if they're here voluntarily, they're only going to answer the questions they want to answer. They're going to say, yeah, I'll answer the question that's helpful to me. I'm not going to answer the critical question. So you're not going to get any good information out of that hearing. Jim Jordan knows that. So why are we having a hearing where they're here voluntarily when we all know they're only going to answer the questions that they want to answer? Why are we doing that? I mean, I would say, great that you claim you're coming, Matthew Bragg. I'm still putting you under subpoena because I want you to, or Alvin Bragg, because I want you to answer the question. You're coming under subpoena because I know you're not going to answer the question. And if you're under subpoena, we can order you to. And I think there should be a call. Look, are you going to risk that, Jim Jordan? Are you going to have a subpoena sitting there so you can serve him with a subpoena in the middle of the hearing and make him answer? Because if not, it's a joke. And I think the other thing is most of our members are really bad questioners. So what's the plan when these smart lawyers get up there? It's kind of like the dog who's caught the car. Alvin Bragg and Matthew Coangelo show up. No one's going to lay a glove on them in 5-minute rounds. And I think you've got to be asking, what's the plan? You know, is everybody going to yield their time to you and Matt Gaetz so that Matt Gaetz can question for an hour? That sounds good to me. That would make sense to me. That's something the Democrats would do. Are we going to do it? I don't think so, because you're going to want the sound bites on Fox, because everybody has to get their sound bite because they're greedy. They're not playing for the team. You know, what would be better press, the stupid sound bites or an hour of Matt Gaetz questioning Bragg and Coangelo and really doing some damage? I mean, the better press is going to be Matt Gaetz on fire for an hour, but that only is Matt Gaetz press. And even though that may be what's necessary to win the day, all of our members are just caught in this echo chamber. So I just wanted to flag those specifics because it's something to ask about, something to advocate for, and something to watch for and to use to educate people about how our members are just fake. You know, you can tell people, hey, why are they having them come in voluntarily? And this is going to happen. And then people are going to see it happen because we really need to work to change the incentive structure to where, oh, yay, I got my clip on Fox News, I'm good. How do we modify that incentive structure? That's what we need.
No, Sam, you're 100% spot on. And we already have history. Never mind all the hearings that we've had the last, I guess, 3 years at this point. The history that we have just happened 2 days ago. They literally had Norm Eisen sitting in front of them. I mean, my God, if I had 30 minutes with Norm Eisen in a hearing, I would have, forget my sound bites, I would have wrecked the guy. I mean, I've got receipts I could talk about Norm Eisen for years. Like, this guy's at the center of most of the lawfare in this country. It's been weaponized when they basically took over Crew, whatever that is, whatever that used to be, the ethics watchdogs, quote unquote, and weaponized lawfare in this country. And Norm Eisen was sitting in front of them, Mr. Color Revolutionary Extraordinaire himself, Mr. Lawfare, Mr. I had 10 impeachments ready to go. I only had to use 2. Because I have the interview where he sat down with Michael Cohen in January talking about all of these things in January before the cases even took off. And so you had him there and you asked him about Colangelo? What? I'm sorry. You're right. We already have precedents for this. And that's where my frustration is as well.
Yeah, well, you should be frustrated. You know what? All right, I'll go there. Sorry, I hesitated for a second, and then I decided we're going there. There's not much magic that goes into these things. A lot of people look at these congressional hearings and investigations, and I've been on both sides of that dais. I was in front of the January 6th committee and behind a lot of Obama appointees on the other side. It is stupid how little amount of preparation and thought goes into those things. And so that's how it happens. And I see Sam Dewey with his hand up. Sam ran investigations for the worst members of Congress. He worked for Susan Collins. Can you believe that? The furthest left senator, probably a threat to democracy as we understand it. And he even managed to destroy libs from that office. From Susan Collins' office in the Senate, Sam Dewey legally destroyed libs. The problem is the muscle memory has left the House. They're grifters. They want to be in the commentary class. You saw Ben Shapiro come to the House of Representatives the other day to meet with Speaker Johnson like it was a friggin' state visit. They rolled out the red carpet to meet with a podcaster, fast talker, stupid head. And that's what they've devolved themselves to, all of these members. And I know a lot of them, I like a lot of them, but they're pathetic. It's a Mickey Mouse club, and they're not fighting. And the biggest thing we can do when we talk about national politics is, as my co-counsel Max says, admit that they're faking it. Now, with all that being said, I'm not doomsing. You're a white pillar, trash, I'm a white pillar. We're suing the shit out of the Biden administration and getting a ton of results. We've gotten all of these documents out. We're going to get the fucking audio tape to the American people. We've proven Mayorkas to be a liar about the border whipping hoax. We have friggin' destroyed Merrick Garland. We've destroyed Hunter's legal defense. We've done it time and time again. But I just want everyone who's listening to stop looking to Congress for a solution. And with that, Sam Dewey, turn off your mic, brother.
Hey, no, I'm still here. I was just going to say again, I think that's right, Mike, and I think you have to ask yourself, why are all these members, if you have a hearing like that, going to be asking questions they've spent almost no time preparing? Why isn't it limited to the members who are going to go lock themselves up in the office and prepare? I mean, shouldn't that be a basic requirement to be on one of these committees? Shouldn't that be a requirement to be someone who can take the lead on something like this, that you are willing to do that? Why are our members not willing to do that? I mean, it's not a huge imposition of time in the relative stream of things. How hard is it for a big hearing like this to actually sit there and do the work to prepare?
Well, when Dick Uline is backing you and other organizations to the tune of $50 million, it doesn't matter if you do anything. It matters if you keep going. And until we conquer the corruption on the right, we're never going to conquer the people who are actually trying to kill us.
No, that's true. I'm just saying it's not hard for them to do it right, though. To your point, Mike, it's not hard.
Well, they have electile dysfunction. That's what I call it, electile dysfunction. They don't want to win.
Well, so to my frustration, over the last year and a half, I've worked with several members of Congress's staff up on the Hill. And they're like, hey, this is really interesting to me. What is all this information you have about these current sitting Intel people working at social media companies? Can you break this down for me? Can you give this to me in bite-sized pieces so I can bring it forth to the committee? And so I spent hours and days doing that. And I made it so very, very simple. And then they were just kind of like, oh, I don't know, we're not rolling with it. And then what did I see? I saw Jim Jordan come out saying, basically, oh, look, they were forcing Meta to do these things. They were forcing these social media companies to do these things. Why? Who's one of Jim Jordan's biggest funders? Yeah, it's Silicon Valley. So, like, it's such a crapshoot. And you spend all this time and you go through all this stuff and you find details, wrapped presence with everything, and then somebody with interest across the aisle or across the committee, they shut it down, or there's like, this is too much, this is too big, we can't take this on. And that's the reality, and that's my frustration, because it's like, okay, well then don't ask me to continue to do this if you're not going to do it, because I got to get this stuff somewhere, because we have all the receipts. And then if I had, which is why I'm so vehemently like pushing oversight, because you guys actually have access to the resources and the law team and have filed all these lawsuits and are getting somewhere with it. And that is why it's so important to me. And Mike, to your point, you're right. It's time for people to gather up and actually create these same systems that exist on the left that had nothing to do with Congress. So Undead joined us as well, Mike.
Oh, get Undead. What's up, buddy?
Hey,
Can
Mike.
you give us an update on your case? Sorry, give us an update. Give us an update, brother.
Actually, I was going to jump in on what you and Sam were just picking up on, and I was hoping that you could offer a little bit of speculation as to why it seems in so many instances the Republicans just don't prepare for these hearings. And that's one of the biggest frustrations that I've had, is that they don't appoint one or two people that really are willing to put in the work and draft detailed questions. And it's not just like the random witnesses. It's even for like Attorney General Garland, when he finally goes into these hearings, even for that, it doesn't feel like the Republicans have any type of strategy. And of course, we can look across the aisle, and anytime the Democrats have a hearing, or anytime they have they're asking questions, you can see the strategy that they have. They have a narrative in mind, and they're building that narrative through their questions. They have like a very detailed strategy, and I would love to hear any speculation that you can offer as to why Republicans just refuse to do that.
We're prima donnas.
Hey, Dad, this is a country law. I can tell you why. They're not killers. You know, Jerry Nadler is a killer compared to Jim Jordan. And if that's what we're dealing with, we're never going to win.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you an answer. I've written the questions, and social media really changed the game for the right in a way it didn't change the game for the left, to be honest with you. Like, I was there during the ISA days. We remember early Obama, where we actually scarred Obama up a bit, right? Like, for better or for worse, and it wasn't that great. We fucking put some points on the board and hurt Obama through congressional investigations. This is nothing compared to things that happened decades before, but it was something. And nothing's happened since. And then we had Fast and Furious, Benghazi, all this thing.
yeah, okay.
And they were like huge animating. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's right, and I think it really is quality of the member.
Oh, that's Sam?
Yeah.
Sam, I thought you were undead.
No.
Hold on, let me finish the story real quick, then I'll go to you real quick. Undead, to answer your question, is in its simplest terms, is corruption on the right. And so you have the people who get the gavels. And I've worked with people with the gavels. Like, I work for Jason Chaffetz, who I adore, work with him every single day. He was great. But you remember, he abruptly resigned. And one of the reasons is because it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And now you have Jim Jordan and others. Comer is the rare exception. I think Comer's doing a dogged job and not getting the support. But they're there not to get results. They're there to work for leadership and maintain the gavel. And what I mean by that is Mike Johnson does not want a Hunter Biden fight on the floor. He does not want a Biden impeachment vote on the floor. And so you put a guy like Jim Jordan on Fox News and to rabble rouse and tweet with 5 million followers to say, I'm fighting, I sent a letter. And that satiates the base for a second. But the problem for them is we don't believe that anymore. And so you're seeing that action that used to happen on Capitol Hill now happening externally. Judicial Watch, America First Legal, the Oversight Project, everyone else has gotten more documents by a magnitude of 100 to 0 than they have, and more results. We've stopped things. We've exploded things. We've made people resign. We're about to do something way crazier. But with that, Sam, the guy who makes it all happen, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Undead, I think the problem is some members just don't have the capacity. They're not smart enough, or they don't want to take the time to prepare because they don't see any marginal value. And again, that goes back to they're all preparing for a 5-second Fox News clip. And if you get that clip and you don't have to prepare, that's great. And let's also remember something. You know, Trash made a good point that Dems are coordinated. And part of that coordinated team play means you got to have some members who ask boring questions. Like, take when Special Counsel Hur testified. One of the most significant exchanges that occurred was Kevin Kiley, who's a very junior member, and he clearly had prepared, and he asked some questions. And one of the key things he asked is, could you have charged Biden and gotten the case to the jury? And that means, is the evidence technically sufficient such that a reasonable juror could convict? And the answer from her was yes, I could have gotten to a jury. And that's hugely significant because that means that yes, there was something that could have been charged as a crime, that could have gone to the jury, and a jury could have convicted. Hur did not charge Biden because of other factors, because he applied prudential judgment. And that, by the way, is what a spot prosecutor is supposed to do. But that's huge because it just emphasizes the significance of the passages about Biden's memory, that it really matters. And it also emphasizes the significance in the contrast between Herr's approach, where he said, well, first of all, can I get to a jury? And then second, should I prudentially bring this case? Well, no, because I don't think I'd get a conviction for yada, yada, yada reasons. I don't think I could prove it to that level. Well, wait a second. We know what Jack Smith's standard is. Can I charge it? Okay, charge it. And that's boring. It takes a little time to explain, but it sets up a lot of stuff down the road. It's an important building block in building a case and supporting other investigative steps. And very few members, it was fortunate Kylie asked it, very few members want to be the person who doesn't get a soundbite out of their 5 minutes because they're asking the boring questions to set something up. And to Mike's point about the gavels, the chairmen want to have hearings so they can look tough and haul someone in. And one of the hardest things to do as a staffer is to push back against that successfully. And a lot of these chairmen now just have yes men. Because it's hard to have to say to your boss, no, you should not have that guy in. He is a top lawyer, and in 5-minute rounds, he's going to run circles around the committee. You want to have him in, you pass a special rule, and I question him from the dais for half a day, or you schedule it after a recess, you skip going home, and you sit in the conference room with me and the guys and prep for a whole week. And then you question him for 6 hours. That's how, they don't want to hear that. And no one says that anymore because it's just not respected anymore. Because their muscle memory is, well, what do I do as a chairman to get the Fox hit? And that's what they get. They get the Fox hit if they put on something stupid and they call the guy up. And we need to change that. We also need to change the media muscle memory of, well, this is kind of boring. Why aren't you doing like cool shit like people used to do where the person gets destroyed for hours under cross-examination? Like, wouldn't I rather watch that? Isn't that more exciting? Yeah, it is. But not on both ends. There's that problem. So I think it's a really important point.
No, it is. It is. And again, there is no prep. There's no real teamwork. There, like you said, it's all about the hits, and there is no coordination. And if you could, man, it would have a lot of power and a lot of impact. And again, to your point, yeah, they're just going to run circles around it. They're going to dodge questions that they don't want to answer. No one's going to actually drill down on it. And listen, I get it. There's people that are busy. They have many things that they're doing, but there's also many things that they're not doing, and they're doing other things and not paying attention to it. And you have a limited number of time and ability to actually nail this thing down. And so again, I am now here supporting Mike's white whale, saying we need to reappropriate those funds to contract it out and to actually have meaningful investigations and lawfare. And it needs to go 100 miles an hour because I believe it will be successful. Because the thing is about all of this stuff is if you just keep it in a house chamber with the muscle memory, which I think is a great way to put it, Sam. If you keep it in the conference, if you just keep it in the committees, then it's all just sound bites and whatever. But the truth, the data, and the evidence is actually on our side. So if you can get this in front of courts, if you can get this actually into something with teeth, it meaningfully changes the entire way that it goes. And I think it brings it down. And that's what I'm here to fight, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you know what it does? Dude, Trash, you're all over the place. Everyone in this Twitter space is around the country. I spend a lot of my job traveling around the country. And the one thing I hear are 2 words everywhere I go, even though I have nothing to do with it. It is do something. Do something. Slap it on a bumper sticker, tattoo it on your forehead. That is all the American people want. And what we're suggesting right now is a way to actually do something. And it is not a panacea. It is not a fix it all. what we're up against right now, we have to admit where we're at in the war and particularly this battle. We have lost a shit ton of ground. So the goal right now to take back power is not about taking back at all. It's about mitigating their ability to, one, advance, and then two, to achieve their goal. So what I mean by that is I think the delta for cheating in this election is probably right now around 4 to 7%. I don't want that number to get higher. It could get to 10, it could get to 20 if we don't do shit. And that's why we're suing, and we're talking a lot about Native American reservations and prisons and college campuses and all this kind of stuff. But listen to me here, and I know I'm rambling a little bit. The accretion of their aggressiveness is fairly static. It's been about 10 years since they turned the entire IC onto Trump with the fake DNC hack, which Undead, I know, knows a lot about. Since then, and those sophisticated turning the IC inside out plans, they have gotten more bold and more aggressive to the point where it was not just about locking up January 6 prisoners. It was not locking up Douglas Mackey for a funny meme. It was not about, the elector scheme. It's gotten to the point where they have the balls to literally imprison Donald J. Trump. So my question to everyone is, where do you think this ends if you're looking at a graph of their aggressiveness? And if you accept that the graph is going in the direction which any reasonable person would understand it to be, which is straight up, then why in holy hell would we keep doing what we've been doing for the last 10 years, which is nothing but pen pal games, Fox News appearances? And we run a little oversight project, and you help out a lot. We sue a lot. We get a lot of W's. But what we're really trying to do at the end of the day is not win in our discrete areas. We're trying to institute a cultural, attitudinal change where people need just to fucking win. And with that, ran over.
Yeah, no, Mike, and you guys have done some great work. As a matter of fact, I would like to have this kind of went missed because I don't know. I get attacked pretty hard by some people that still have their hands on the algorithm for about a week now. It's gone now. It seems to be gone because I've been tagging support. It's gone now, but there was kind of an under the radar thing that went out. So apparently, I've found out that Congress has issued 15 subpoenas over this Biden executive order, the 14019. We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
They've issued 0 subpoenas.
Really, that was a lie?
Well. Okay, here's the lie. A subpoena that it's issued is meaningless.
Okay.
It only becomes a subpoena when it's enforced.
Okay.
The Congress has enforced 0 subpoenas.
Okay.
And so issue a subpoena. When I was working for Trump at DHS, we got some subpoenas. You know what I did with them? Threw them in the trash. No offense to your first name. Okay. Like they're meaningless pen pal games relying on people's lack of legal intellect to say they're doing something legally escalatory.
Okay. All right. So
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let me fill everybody in if they don't know. This is why we actually need to push on this. We actually need to make some noise about this. So you guys dropped this is back on May 16th, so it was almost a month ago that you dropped this. And the Blaze picked it up and they actually did this. They did an article about it. But you have the entire data dump of this executive order 14019 by the Biden administration, where essentially they're using public funds and public touch points, like all governmental offices, to coordinate this get out the vote campaign, register voters, so on and so forth. And they're using government funds to do it. And I was combing through this data dump, and I was talking with Colin, Mike, and I got this email, and this is a Federal Work Study Department of Education. So what they were trying to do in the state of Wisconsin was they were trying to essentially have access to this $1.2 billion of federal work study funding, where they could actually allocate it to these groups, these dark money, far left groups that are not nonpartisan, even though that's what the EO says. We all know that's bullshit. But they actually have this email here where it's saying, "Hey, can can we get this amended so we can have access to this $1.2 billion for get out of the vote operations? And so when I heard that there was actually subpoenas sent out, now to your point, yeah, that subpoenas are meaningless. But I think that people actually need to start talking about this a little bit, because they're actually using the government taxpayer funds. I don't want people to forget about this, through fucking executive order, to basically create these ballot chasing, get out the vote, voter registration programs. And they're using government offices. Like even in the state of Michigan, they were using, I believe, the Department of Labor, like Small Business Administration, I think is what they were using.
That's correct. Yes, that is absolutely. I was going to bring that up, Trash. This is country law. So yeah, what they were trying to do, and speaking to your point about subpoenas, they issued 2 subpoenas to people at the Small Business Administration. They didn't show up for that. Now, unfortunately, we put a lawsuit in on it, and from what we've gathered so far, they haven't registered a single voter in Michigan with the Small Business Administration, and that's great. We need to stop them from doing it. I mean, well, they may have. We don't know. I mean, yeah.
No, Trash. What's happening is they're fudging the numbers, right? We sued them over something, and they said, "Hey, by the way, that one portal we set up, none of the registrations came through that one web portal." Okay, and that's their cover their ass kind of deal. But what's really happening is federal employees with everyone in this group chat's money is filling out the forms for them to register to vote. No one's going through the web link, okay, which is a red herring. And so they're citing the web link as like this red herring to be like, no, we haven't registered anyone, when the registrations are actually happening with pen and ink on the ground. And I'm talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about people who have no reason to vote. I'm talking about demographically dense Democrat areas. This partisan until this executive order. I mean, you remember, no one really knew about Zuck Bucks. It didn't become a household term until after the election. This will be the subject of history books if they pull this off. Demos, the group that created this, that was derivative of Obama and Susan Rice and the Netflix money and the Disney money. Okay, we're talking about big power players. These people don't sign up for a Girl Scout cookie sale. They think they can register 3 million voters, and we have the records where they brag about it. And I'm an optimist. I think we're going to win. But if we lose, and by lose, I'm a C3 guy, so I'm not a partisan guy. But if one side loses, the sleeping beast will be the government, for the first time in American history, using the force of the entire executive branch to protect the person in power, to prey in a predatory fashion on low-income, government-dependent people to, I don't want to say force, but nudge them to vote. That's what we're looking at.
Suggest, if you will. Forcefully suggest, if you will. But yeah, no. And again, I know you're not for one candidate or the other. However, just doing the math and looking at, listen, we want a fair shake in this country, and we cannot have an executive using all touch points of governmental offices with government taxpayer funds going out in a partisan way and masquerading as a nonpartisan effort. Like, we can't have that. That is tyranny. That is not a republic. So, regardless of
that's absolutely right. And for the fucking sorry for my language, but I got a little upset. The fucking histrionics, or however you say that word, about the last election and the hell they're putting these people through for having the audacity to question what everyone in this country already knows. And now, in real time, the left is rigging the election in dramatic fashion. And I don't think this country is really ready for that conversation. And that's what I'm most worried about. And that's why I think this Transition Integrity Project is really going to blow a lot of people's minds. And that's an Easter egg for a lot of people in the chat. July 11th, mark your calendars. We're going to roll out a bipartisan panel. And there's going to be former upper chamber Democrats talking about election interference. And it is going to be a massive news story. Already deleted all of my emails, which are pretty much just my kids' soccer practices and nanny schedules and preschool meals. But nevertheless, I'm girded for war on this. It is bullshit what they're doing. They are gearing up for this.
So
Yeah,
I don't know if people are Sam. I'm going to come right to you. I just want to make sure that lands. Those of you, the lucky number 189 of you in here listening, I hope you caught that. Go ahead, Sam.
yeah. I mean, I was just going to emphasize what Mike was saying about the same questioning that we have always been told is a good thing is now under attack. The same principles that we always have been told these are good things, they're under attack. And it is so content and outcome driven. Two good examples of that are there's a famous First Amendment Supreme Court case where the court said, yeah, the Nazi Party can march in a town called Skokie, Illinois. They got all their permits, they're not inciting anybody, they're just marching, and if you find it offensive, you don't have to watch. But that's the First Amendment. And for decades, everybody would pretty much agree, yeah, that's what happens. The Nazis can march in Skokie. It's not the case anymore. If they don't like your message, you shouldn't be heard. Probably because they know you're going to prevail. And the other kind of related point is Democrats have questioned elections for years. It's always been done. There have always been disputes. And the notion and the extent of the weaponization is just insane. And it's really astonishing because I guarantee you if Trump wins, you're going to see all sorts of objections. The same objections that they have gone after people for, the Democrats are going to employ like they did in 2016, like they did in 2004, like they did in 2000. They're going to employ them and they're going to use them themselves. And it's going to all of a sudden, nothing wrong with it, nothing that is criminal, nothing that requires disbarment. And you're just going to see that, and it's just a normalization of our way or the highway. The normal system of Republican government doesn't control anymore because we don't like the results it produces. That's what this is about. They don't like the results that this system produces. They know they can't win. And they want to find a way to rig the system so that they always get the result they want.
No, that's
Which is shit.
Mike. Go ahead.
No, I was just finishing Sam's sentence by saying the result they want is absolute shit.
Yeah, I agree. It's absolute shit. And Sam, I was going to respond to you earlier when you were talking about Kevin Kiley, who's, I believe, Southern California, if I remember correctly, where he's from. You were talking about how he actually asked the right question, and her said, "Yeah, there actually is. I believe I probably could bring this to a jury." I just let's not forget. Like, this is something that I was calling out at that time. Around the same time that the Hur investigation dropped, that following Monday, that Politico piece came out, which I believe came out of Obama's camp, that said Joe Biden can retire with dignity and he can turn over to a new torch, a new generation at the DNC, and retire into the sunset. That came on the heels of Robert Hur's investigation dropping. Just for people, if they don't know this, Robert Hur came from underneath Rod Rosenstein out of Maryland, right? So Rod Rosenstein, Russiagate PP tape hoaxer, Russiagate DOJ, main DOJ guy, just complete hack, right? And or partisan, I should say. He's probably very good, but he's a partisan. Um, so like I had no designs that Robert Hur was ever going to do anything at all, and it almost seemed like to me that the reason that report was released the way it was released and the specific items that were included in the report, i.e., he may not remember truth, so on and so forth, was actually a shot across the bow because there was a series of events that happened before that article dropped. We know that basically the White House was fighting getting it released for a week. We know that items have been removed. That's why we want the audio recordings. We know that items have been removed. I'm assuming the White House put some pressure through DOJ to get those edited. They just said they removed, duplicate words, so on and so forth. But I believe there's way more than that, and that's why the recordings are. Yeah.
Sorry, Trash, got you off. The framing on Robert Hur, everybody in the world has gone wrong. Robert Hur put in those lines about what everyone in this country already knows, which is Joe Biden is a senile, doddering old fool, because he knew that was the shiny object to make everyone ignore the reality. And the reality, as I see it, is he looked at Joe Biden's decade-long trading of classified information in the context of only where were the documents and where'd you put them. Whereas any honest prosecutor and anyone subject to the lawfare of the evil people coming after anybody in Trump's orbit would have said, what were you doing with these classified documents in the context of an international pay-to-play scheme spanning the CCP, Ukraine, Africa, and everywhere else in the globe? Hur was the biggest cover-up artist I've ever seen. And he put that line in. And as soon as I read that line, I know an Easter egg when I see one. I put a lot of Easter eggs in. It was a shiny object to distract from the fact that he did not get the burner phones. And to back this up, 6 months when Special Counsel Hur was announced, and I've been working the burner phones issue for a while, we sent a formal letter to him, an official letter, and said, here are the phone numbers you need to subpoena if you're actually looking at Joe Biden's use of classified information. To look at the classified information in a box is nothing. You need to understand in the context of what he was doing business-wise at the time. And so to that end, we sent him the specific phone numbers and burner email addresses that he needed to use legal process to obtain and then track what he was using the classified information for. Of course, he did not do that. He just issued a 500-page report. It was like, the box was there, box is there, the box is under the Corvette, and Joe Biden's stupid and old. And everyone was just like, oh, he said Joe Biden's stupid and old. This is over. And that's my biggest frustration, is that no one's understanding that this is the most corrupt president in history. And in any other context, if this happened on the quote unquote right wing, our people would be in jail. They're being persecuted for far fucking less right now.
Yeah, no, and that's and so the point I was going to make also was that it was a cover up, but it was also, in my opinion, from what I could tell, it was kind of a shot across the bow because of just the timing of everything. Basically, it forced the public or the media or Joe Biden's campaign themselves to say, yes, he's doddering and old and has dementia, or no, he's a criminal. Like there's no third option.
All right, that's fair, but let me challenge you for a second. If and I don't from the political sense in contemporary politics as you grew up in them in, I absolutely agree with all of these theories that Joe Biden sucks, Obama wants him out. But if you believe what I believe, which is that the election system in America has redounded itself to a ballot collection machine operation as opposed to a vote getting operation, then why does it matter who's on the ballot? Joe Biden campaigned from a quote unquote basement in 2020. Why, if the machine worked then and the machine has only improved, why can't it work now? And why would a change of horses benefit the machine? And so that's why I don't think there's any change afoot. I think it's worthwhile talking about because it makes Joe Biden look weak as hell, but I just don't think it's happening.
So
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, one of the things to keep in mind when you're talking about the timing and to look at the jurisdiction. Her was jurisdiction from Garland was confined to the documents. It was set up so he was only looking at that question. And I think there's a really interesting contrast between that and Rod Rosenstein giving Mueller and Andrew Weissman carte blanche to go after Trump on predication that we now know was completely false and was questionable at the time. Why was there no regulation of that? Well, that's obvious because Rod Rosenstein, he is a good lawyer, but He's part of the professional class, and he didn't want to do anything that would offend his friends. He was offended, etc. Her narrowly defined jurisdiction, Jack Smith, broadly defined jurisdiction. And the other thing is, you pick two very different people. Her is a very slow, deliberate person who is going to indulge in every inference not to recommend charges, because that's what the tradition has always been. And if you set aside the stuff Mike is talking about, a lot of people I know said, yeah, I wouldn't have charged because it's got to be overwhelming. The case did have some issues in it as to how it might play to the jury. I wouldn't have charged. But if you ask those same people, their response is, well, I sure as hell wouldn't have charged Trump either. Don't forget Merrick Garland loaded the deck here. He put in a person who he knew was going to follow the traditional view. You don't charge a former president unless it's a laydown, as to his boss, President Biden. And then he put in a guy who's functionally insane, Jack Smith, who will charge anything and who will pursue theories that just aren't right. And it was amazing to watch Garland defend that, because Garland said, well, the Supreme Court ruled and we now respect that, but we thought we were right. And I just kind of sit there and I scratch my head because, I grew up hearing stories about the real old Department of Justice, not what the Dems claim are the old Department of Justice, the real old Department of Justice, where it was literally about trying to do the right thing. And you'd have lawyers who would just sit there, look at each other and say, yeah, I could push that theory. I could win in this local trial court. I'm just not doing it. It's not right. I'm not charging him. I'm not pursuing that theory. Yeah, I could argue it. Yeah, I have a good legal case, but you know what? It's just not right. It's not right to use that crazy view of the bribery statute. I will not do it. Rob Herr's kind of in that old school camp, whereas you got Jack Smith, who's never met a case that he didn't want to charge, even if he expected to get reversed 9-0. And don't forget that either. That's what's going on here with all these special counsel reports.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I mean, and again, I still think, Jack Smith's days are coming. We still know the immunity questions at SCOTUS right now is going to break before the end of the month, I believe, before they break for session. So we're going to see that. And then we're also seeing, Eileen Cannon. I don't even know if they're going to get to it, but she is setting some hearings, and whether the constitutionality of even Jack Smith even being involved in that case, let alone, Chutkin's case. But we'll see what happens there. I agree with you. I think that Robert Hur is that type. The only reason it's just kind of bothered me is because it seems to me, and it seems to be a common theme, that the camps know. And so, Mike, let me answer your question first, and then I'll come back to my theory. You said this earlier in the space, and I agree. There is a percentage of cheating, and there's also going to need to be not only a perception, or, I'm sorry, a 4 to 7%, which is about right. I think that's about right. That's kind of what I called what I can see from 2020 is about 4 to 7%, give or take. But that's when you had the legacy media stacked, and that's the mess. That's not really happening now. That's when you had everyone completely afraid, confused, and completely gaslit, censored, suppressed. Like, this is my 7th account. I lost my account the day I shared the Hunter Biden story my last time, and I didn't come back until May of 2022. But all of those things are not in place right now, and the trend is not there. The motivation's not there. And I think, so why would they want to do anything else? Because we know he's not going to campaign. Why would they want to change him out? I think it's too late, especially with fundraisers. And anyway, why would they want to get rid of him? Well, because you're going to have some level of perception in the public that what they pull off is actually legitimate, number one. And then number two, it's going to require people at all local levels, including all these polls, all the workers, all the people chasing ballots, to want to get on board like the way they were in 2020. I don't see it this time. I don't know that they can overcome the difference. And so it seems to me that a panic has set in as Biden gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's why I posited my theory that this was kind of like a last ditch effort to force the campaign to either acknowledge that he's too old to run, he's too incompetent, or he was actually a criminal either way. But what bothered me the most was we kept talking about, and it's the same thing with this ghostwriter. They're talking about the documents in the garage. They're not talking about the documents at the UPenn Biden Center that was involved with the UK, Ukraine, and Iran. Those same documents that Anthony Blinken was a director of the UPenn Biden Center at that time. Then Michael Carpenter takes over, right? Who is a basically permanent ambassador to Ukraine under the. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. But my point is it seemed like it was a distraction as well, because if they talked about the documents that were at the UPenn Biden Center that he shouldn't have had, that created this entire plan that put Hunter Biden and Devin Archer on the board of Burisma, that created this entire thing that happened in Ukraine, that would unravel the entire Foreign Agent Registration Act aspect of this and the pay for play scheme that we know happened and we have receipts and video for, Sam.
Oh, Trash, I think it's actually worse than that because, first of all, just a real quick aside on your he's either a criminal or he's senile. That's why the question that Kylie asked was so important, and it's shocking it took that long for someone to ask that, because that's what teased that up, is that, I could have charged him, but I applied traditional prosecutorial discretion not to. Which, again, if you just look at what her was looking at, I probably wouldn't have charged him either, because I would have applied a high threshold like her, and I think a lot of people would have. But on this broader question, it's actually worse than just what was found at the Penn Biden Center. We know that DOJ made Cravath, Swain, and Moore, one of the oldest, most influential law firms in the country, register for lobbying for Burisma. They were investigating them. They made him register. So what the heck's going on with Hunter? Did they make him register?
No,
No. Is he under investigation? Oh, I haven't seen anything. Have you seen anything?
no, just the IRS stuff that's going to happen in SoCal in September, but which is what would directly implicate not only Joe but Hunter in a FARA violation and false registration and money laundering and on and on and on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not fun, but it is what it is, I suppose. I think we're all here for that. Mike, I know you guys over there have been having a good time. Let's revisit next week. I know you guys have got some stuff coming out, so I'll be looking forward to that. Let's have a space next week and go over it. This has been a lot of fun. I was actually closing down when all of you guys made your way in here, so thank you for coming, because it's been an amazing space, and let's. I'm excited to see what you've got coming next week, and I'll open up a space about it. We'll break it all down. Sam, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And Roman, good to see you again, my friend. Even though you didn't get, if you want to add anything to the conversation before we take off, but I think I'm gonna let you guys go.
Yeah, just one little thing. Just on the executive order. A lot of people are like, well, they're getting out the vote. It's what's so bad about this? They're only getting out the vote for just a specific type of people, and that's specifically historically is it people who are historically voted Democratic. And they're not going out there saying, "Hey, look at these people over here. Let's look at the Amish." No, they're not going after that, and that's the real issue that we're seeing with this executive order. They're not going after everybody.
Well, and then
That's about it.
obviously, Roman, right? The groups listed that are actually receiving this funding, like we know, I know who they are. I track these people, and by the way, you guys dropped a hell of a tracker today. By the way, that was awesome. But I track these people. I know these people. I know their funding sources. I know who they are. And so, like when I looked at that list, I mean, I knew I'd say 60 to 70% of everybody on that list that was receiving it. I was like, come on, man! Like this is so blatantly obvious. And these are ultra left wing dark money groups that are funded by the usual suspects that are now going to receive government money to chase obviously votes that are going to go one direction, and they're using taxpayer funds to do it. It's just, to me, it's just atrocious.
100%.
It is atrocious trash, but you know what I think we need? An undercover operation in Amish country. So I'm going to go start planning that.
Let's go. That's what we need. They want to play around Indian reservations where you have 12% of the entire population addicted to a substance, which is just abhorrent to me. And they're going to take advantage of these communities and groups. I'm here in Arizona. Like I'm in Maricopa County, man. We've got a lot of that here, and it's absolutely devastating. And so I've got my own fights here too, guys. Here in Maricopa, my God. But we're working on it. Let me go around the horn real quick. Undead, Sam, Roman, Jack, everybody, thank you for joining us. You guys want to add any parting words? And then hopefully we can pick this up next week with some new information.
Yeah, actually, I saw a post from our mutual friend Prodigal earlier that according to Laura Trump that she has now hired 500,000 poll watchers and over 500 lawyers for poll watching. So if you want a little white pill, there's
Well, I can
that.
tell you, some of my friends that are in the campaign, they're finally tapping grassroots. And there is a huge program within the campaign going on right now. It's called Trump Force 47, and they're actually going to be talking to grassroots and getting them involved. They're already busy getting people signed up in various different states. So that is positive. That is good. They are finally talking to the actual grassroots and utilizing it. But right now, and that's positive. And I want that. I hope that I personally hope that it gets Trump elected. My focus right now is that we have not until November, but we have the next 5-10 years to actually undo a lot of this lawfare and this corrupt system that's been put in place. I'm hopeful for Project 2025. That's why I've been talking about it the last year and a half, and that's why they're attacking it. But honestly, like what we talked about here tonight, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but the people in here and what we talked about tonight and the groups that we're talking about tonight, I think is going to be one of the most important pieces moving forward, because this is going to have to be done constitutionally, but it's going to have to be effective, and it's going to have to be rabid. And I think it needs to be well funded. And honestly, like I'm all about Mike's idea of getting those funds reallocated to somebody else and starting to go ham on this. Just unlock the money. Let's go. Unlock the money.
I'll jump in for parting words. I understand the challenge that the RNC has and all of the campaigns have, and God bless them. But even on their best day, the most important thing we can do is to stop the abuses. Okay, imagine if the RNC and everyone else does 100%, the best possible circumstance we can imagine. That is not enough to overcome the cheat. And so the mission that I'm asking everyone on this chat to be involved in is we got to mitigate their ability to cheat. And so whether it's through these document dumps and exposures and litigation, and I'm in conversations with a lot of secretaries of state to kick them out, we have to tamp down their ability to have 120% turnout in urban areas. So we have to play offense, not just do our bread and butter, knock some doors, get some votes. We have to stop the cheat. We got to make it too big to rig by doing everything on the other side, but we have to mitigate their ability to damage.
Yeah, I agree. And then actually go on offense. That's what I want to do. I like being on offense. I would like to go on offense. I would like to lawfare on offense. Like you guys know who my biggest enemies are, right? The people that I go after is Renee DeResta and Michael McFall and Alex Stamos and Norm Eisen and David Brock and Michael Teeter. Like these are the people that I go after, because those people went on offense, well funded, and they're utilizing the system and perverting not only Constitution but like our courts and everything else to do what they're doing. I would like to do that.
You're 100% right. I played D1 football for one day. I showed up to training camp. They switched me to offense to defense, and I quit. And now I'm doing what I do now because I only play offense.
Let's go. We're gonna get some SEC championships up in here. Well, I'm a Buckeyes guy, but whatever. The SEC obviously has championships.
Duke football is not a threat, bro.
It's not. Duke basketball is, though. It can be again.
Yeah, it will. Watch out next year. Sam Dewey, you want to send us home?
Yeah, I just want to say keep watching what happens and keep asking why is this happening, and just keep pushing members to do the right thing in Congress in terms of breaking out of this soundbite echo chamber. Just keep pushing them.
Yep. Yep. And also getting involved with people's campaigns that are up and coming that may win these seats. Maybe they're heavy red seats. Don't have to pay attention to it too much. Get a hold of the staffers, start pushing this shit through. I think we can get there when we show that it's effective.
Oh, they're freaking out. It's working. Trust me. This has never happened in 15 years in DC. They know their goose is cooked.
And I'm here for it. Yeah, I actually have some friends that were part of the old political consulting class and polling and things like that. And man, he is going to be grudgingly voting for my candidate coming up. But man, oh man, have we gone rounds. It's just a paradigm shift, and it takes a time. It takes a lot of time. But the Lord's work is being done by a lot of you guys over at Oversight, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And also, by the way, the internet sleuths out there, the people that keep putting stuff out there to hit their head against the wall, getting censored, suppressed, because there's people that still have access to APIs and algorithms and all these things. I'm gonna do a shameless plug real quick, and that's why Millie and I created the Sleuth Army. We have a group of researchers that were just kind of doing their own thing on the internet and putting stuff out, and we're trying to actually kind of focus that talent and energy into directions that's needed. And we have a lot of talented people that we work with, and we were able to put a lot of this stuff together. So I appreciate each and every one of you. But it's going to take that, and it's going to take people who actually understand the assignment. And I believe that I have some friends in this space that understand the assignment. So I appreciate all of you. And anything else you guys want to add before I shut this thing down and go about my merry way? It's 11:30 in DC. What the hell are you guys doing?
We're talking about the most important things that need to be spoken about. My final words are: we got what, 5 months to save this country, and not only this country, Western civilization. Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go, bro. I'm here. I'm here for it. I think what's happening in France is interesting. I think what's happening around the country, around the world, in various different countries is interesting. But none of that matters if we don't fix this shit here first. So let's do this. Let's end the forever wars. Let's stop blowing up kids in the Middle East. Let's stop a lot of this shit and get this country back on track. Or we're just gonna keep signing $850 billion NDAAs that sell us all out. All right, guys. We'll talk to you all soon. Mike, Max, Country Law, Sam, everybody, Roman, everybody in the space. Thank you guys so much. Undead Foya, good to see you. Thanks for coming up. And we'll see you guys real soon.
Later, brother.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Like partying or something, Mike? What's up?
Here, yeah, we had a big old pig roast to celebrate the huge legal wins, and there are a lot of them. But I'm here with the legal team. We got Country Law, and for the first time ever on a Twitter space, Maximilian.
Let's go. What's up, guys?
We're chilling. Got a lot of pig. If anyone needs pig, we cooked 100 pounds of it. Pig for everyone.
Hell yeah, dude. I went through stories of the week, but I started with these transcripts, and I know you guys are pushing to get the audio, and I know you guys are also pushing to get the audio of the Robert Hur Biden interview. Anything else you guys are working on?
Yeah, well, let's stick on the audio for a second.
Yeah.
There's about to be some big news there. Everyone here likes superhero movies. We're about to get together, and we've spent the last 2 weeks doing this. All of the biggest legal names you can ever